Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, our guest is Brenda Hershey. Brenda is an author, international humanitarian, researcher, and TRI Global's president and founder. TRI stands for Trauma Recovery Yoga. Did I get that right?
Yep, you got it.
Brenda has a BA degree in international relations, a master's in community development, and is currently obtaining a certificate in traumatic stress studies from the Trauma Research Foundation. Having several years of humanitarian fieldwork in the Middle East, Brenda is passionate about integrating the TRI method into traditional humanitarian efforts because she knows firsthand that these tools are, in fact, life-changing. Currently, she resides in Iraqi Kurdistan with her husband. Brenda's purpose is to help people connect or reconnect their mind, body, and spirit. So it's beautiful. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So the first question out of the gate is generally something like, why this work? Why now? What led you to this path?
So it all happened in this, puzzle pieces just fall into place, right? None of it was necessarily planned. But a few years ago, since my early 20s, I had been practicing yoga actively, and yoga played a big part in my healing journey. And then a few years ago, I was introduced to Trauma Recovery Yoga, which at the time was an organization in the US. And it combined my passions for helping people cope with and recover from trauma in a way that I felt really connected to, using trauma-informed yoga, stuff like mind-body tools backed by science. And so to kind of marry these two passions of mine just made perfect sense. And I can tell you more about my personal trauma story and story of resilience mainly with these two passions. But that's kind of how it all came together. And then a couple of years ago, I came to Kurdistan on a contract for a humanitarian position, working with an international organization. And I now have launched, there's a huge gap in humanitarian efforts, like traditional humanitarian aid, where they're just starting to develop psychological support, like talk therapy, and starting to break the stigma around that here, but there are no mind-body methods. So now I'm really on a mission to share that here in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's amazing, important work. Okay, so you did mention that part of the path was selected because of your own healing. And I think that's fascinating how most of us in this profession of wanting to be change agents and healers and advocates, it generally starts from our own personal stories. At least it plants the seed of wanting to make a difference, you know?
Absolutely.
So whatever you're comfortable with sharing about your personal traumas, it helps my audience connect with you because they are also trauma survivors, but just simply share what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. So in such a trauma-informed way, you ask, by the way.
I try.
Yeah. You walk the walk, you know. So actually, it's interesting because when I first started working with TRI, I was working with people who had experienced more severe traumas, big T traumas. I was serving people in homeless shelters, domestic abuse shelters, refugees, and different environments. And up till that point, my traumas looked like smaller emotional kind of traumas. So I hadn't experienced a more obvious big T trauma. And so as passionate as I was about, and as good as I was at what I was doing, serving these people, there was still this disconnect. And I didn't realize that so much until I'd been teaching for about 6 months, these classes. And the foundation of the classes is SRR, self-regulation for resilience. So there are these different simple tools that help bring you back to the present moment. So like orienting, grounding, centering, and breath. And so I was actively practicing those tools as I was teaching. And then about 6 months into my work with TRI, I experienced a series of my own big T traumas. So the first was I was on a flight to Guatemala. We were about 10 minutes from landing. And I got service on my phone, and I received a message that my dad had unexpectedly passed away. He had a heart attack. And he raised me as a single father. I had just seen him, not long before. So it was completely unexpected and sudden. And so you can imagine, like, and all of us who have experienced a big trauma, I think maybe we can go back to those moments when, especially if you're aware of what's happening in your body, if you have that option to, I felt that rush of energy move from the bottom of my feet, like slowly up my body. And I'd been studying the science of trauma at this point. So I knew logically what was happening in my body. I knew that it was totally involuntary. It was, for the most part, your body takes over. Mm-hmm. And we're just wired, like our bodies are amazing. We're wired for survival. So I was hyper aware of what was happening in my body. And after a few seconds, I noticed I was holding my breath. And mind you, we're 10 minutes from landing on this plane. I'm buckled in. I can't get out of the seat. So I'm stuck there. And I noticed I was holding my breath. And right away, I was like, oh, breathe. I'd heard enough stories at this point of people who were sitting when the trauma happened, stuff stored in their hips, what that looked like for months or years afterwards. So I had the gift of other people's stories and having, been gifted other people's shares with me to recall those in the moments. And I basically walked myself then through a self-regulation practice. So I started counting the windows on the plane, reorienting myself. I felt the seatbelt on my stomach and the weight of my body on the chair. And I was just focusing on my breath and repeating to myself, like, I am breathing, I am okay. Those were the affirmations that worked for me. And it doesn't make it all go away. I got out of that seat and I was pretty disoriented, but it allowed me, like having been actively practicing those tools, allowed me to be really present in those moments and to process what was coming up for me and not to hold on to it. So that was the first of 3 deaths, big deaths that happened in a row. So about 6 weeks later, I got a call that my sister passed away. Totally different circumstances, totally different experience. And then about 6 weeks later, I don't know what was with this timing, but then a good friend of mine passed away. So getting the calls, the theme throughout these experiences for me was that I was hyper aware of what was happening in my body, and I was able to use the tools that I was teaching other people. I thought it was for them, right? And it saved me. Like, it gave me the choice in those moments, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing these mind-body tools with other people.
Wow. It's a pretty powerful share. You're the first person that I've interviewed that said, I learned the skills first and then they helped me later for healing. So that's pretty powerful. I'm sorry about your losses, though. I know grief is, I hate grief. I always tell people when they come work with me for grief, it's like, no, I don't hate. Well, it's not grief that I hate. I hate that people lose people they love, Yeah. Nothing more sucky.
Exactly. Like, it's such and we're not taught about how to handle death. It's everywhere. And, so I went through all the stages, and it's not a linear process. We all know that. So yeah, it's different for each and every one of us, which is so interesting to navigate. Even the three people who died in my life, the experience, like in my relationship to each of them was different. So it's just a new journey every time, and it's not one that you wish for anyone.
Exactly.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate that you felt okay to share. Okay is not maybe the best word, but I appreciate you sharing. Basically.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah. And also to have that resilience, like you mentioned, that is powerful. So for me to give these tools to kids, especially, we're teaching women and children mainly, but imagine if you're a child and you are taught how to breathe. You can find your breath. You can breathe into your belly. Like, yeah, your life, like in these small but really, really big ways that can kind of shift the trajectory of how you show up in the world. So that's a big driving factor for me, which is rooted in my experience.
Huge. Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little more about TRY, how you discovered it, how you use it.
Yeah. So, I started with TRY in the US. I was, along with the co-founders of Trauma Recovery Yoga. They're based in the US, in Idaho now, but the community is in Las Vegas. That's where it all started. So I was fortunate enough to team up with them and to be training people around the country to teach trauma recovery yoga. And that included doctors, nurses, mental health professionals, yoga instructors, and then people just on their healing journeys. So I took a little break and came here. Well, I finished my master's degree in Greece first, where I did my thesis and taught TRY to refugees and children in homeless shelters. And then came to Kurdistan. And I was doing humanitarian work here in a few different sectors for a couple years. And about a year ago was when I really just started getting all of these downloads that like, TRY is needed here. And I continued to teach online like throughout that time. And because of the pandemic, more people were looking for online classes. And so that worked out well in that sense. But now we are officially a registered nonprofit organization, TRY Global, that is. And we're a separate entity, but it's based on the same method as the company in the US now. So we serve vulnerable populations worldwide, but we're based here in Iraqi Kurdistan. We teach community classes, we facilitate teacher trainings, and we have a crisis response team, which deploys to different areas of the world impacted by natural or man-made disaster. So we just facilitated our first 2 teacher trainings here in Kurdistan. So we have 27 trained TRY instructors.
Oh, awesome.
Which is huge. Yeah. And we've got lots of like online resources for them, ongoing support. So our goal is to make it a really sustainable system and an empowering system, and a community really that we all get to be a part of. And then our next big project is our crisis response team is preparing for to facilitate trainings in Ukraine. So in the coming months, we plan to go to Ukraine and facilitate these teacher trainings to locals and teach community classes there.
That's incredibly powerful. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, no wonder you love your work. I mean, you can say without a shadow of a doubt, my work makes a difference. You know, no doubt at all. It's a very powerful purpose to have. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So anybody wanting to learn more about TRY, would you send them to your website? Would you send them to the headquarters website? Would you recommend any books? What would be the first step?
So anyone interested in learning more about TRY Global and our work or getting involved, you can visit www.tryglobal.org. And If you would like to reach out to us, there's an email at the bottom of the page that'll come directly to me. You can also, for more current updates and to stay like up to date as soon as we are sharing with the public, follow us on social media. So it's super easy on our Instagram and Facebook. It's just Try Global. Instagram is try.global.
Okay. And I'm reading this correct that you are the president and founder.
Yes.
For Try Global. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. Right. Is there any books written about Try? If not, are you going to write one?
Actually, I think we're manifesting something here. But there are no books specifically written about Try yet. But I did facilitate an 8-week Try intervention last fall with survivors of genocide here, a lot of whom they were Yazidi women, a lot of whom survived ISIS captivity and sexual enslavement. And for anyone interested in supporting Yazidis, we do a lot of work with them as well. I think your podcast listeners might be interested in supporting like this community. So we did this Try intervention with 2 groups. One was young Yazidi women, the other with local humanitarian workers. And the impact on all of our measurements were just incredible. So we measured the impact of the class, and it was just 1 class a week, on their mental trauma symptoms, so anxiety and depression related symptoms, their physical trauma symptoms, which was a lot of digestive issues, headaches, restlessness, nervousness, on their resilience levels, so a lot of increased resilience levels, so they're better able to handle stress or trauma in the future, and on their heart rate variability, which speaks to the strength or the state of their vagus nerve and their nervous system. So that research is coming to fruition. I'm piecing together the paper now, and we're doing phase 2 with children here with Syrian refugees. So more to come on that. Wow. It won't be maybe that we'll turn that into a book. Let's see.
Nowadays, it's super easy to do.
Right.
So if you need help with that, I think I know 3 or 4 publishers at this point. So let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, like for small group, like small book publishing, self-publishing, like to help advise you. I don't mean I know big time publishers. I don't. So I just want to clarify that, because your book might qualify for a big time publisher, actually. Because not enough is being written about the topic. So yeah, well,
so true.
Cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you had a chance to listen to other episodes of our podcast yet, but one of the questions I typically love to ask people, because I'm a huge bibliotherapist. Wait, what are you drinking? Was that coffee?
It's mete.
Mete. Tea?
Yeah. It's a Brazilian, it's like a kind of a green tea. It's caffeinated. It's Brazilian and Syrian. My husband's from Syria, so this is a popular drink there, and I'm addicted to it now. So
tell us one more time what it's called. Mente? Menta. Okay. So I know people listening to the podcast can't see you, but YouTubers can. She's got this cute little glass cup with some interesting.
With a straw, and
yeah.
I don't know if you can, I'm sure you can order anything in the U.S.
Menta. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Squirrel, right? Oh, because going back to the books, because, I think teas go with books as well. I believe books can be incredibly healing. And so I just wanted to see if you had any favorites, especially that align with either what you do or supporting survivors.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if everyone recommends The Body Keeps the Score. Bessel van der Kolk. Yeah, that's the first one I read that really helped me, that inspired me to dive deeper and helped me expand my perspective on trauma and trauma recovery and how yoga plays a part in that. So highly recommended. Another one that I'm about halfway through is, I believe it's Transcending Sexual Trauma Through Yoga. And let me give you the name of the author. It's really amazing. And especially when you're working with people specifically with sexual trauma, there are specific things in a class that we're really careful to do or not to do that are important to keep in mind. The author is Zahabia Yamasaki.
You guys Yamasaki, right?
Yes. Zahabia, Zahabiyah. I'm so sorry if I'm like butchering this name. Last name Yamasaki, Yamasaki.
Awesome. Thank you. I have not read that one yet, but this sounds awesome.
It was just released in January, but it's a good read.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. I hope you do write your own book. I think you have a very clever niche, put, the yoga with your MA in community development, people being more trauma centered within community development, especially in war torn areas or areas with lots of oppression. It's super important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you would think that because there's so much trauma here, at least I did when I came here, that people would be more trauma informed or more educated around trauma, but it's quite the opposite. It's very normalized, and we're sticking with the basics of trauma informed care, and we're meeting people where they are, and that's where we are here right now. So thank you. Thanks for the support, and we'll have to stay in touch and keep you updated on what we're doing.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. So my final question, and of course, if I missed anything you wanted to share, please jump in and share it. But my final question, like for anyone that's listening who's really struggling right now and may not feel so hopeful, do you have any words of encouragement you would like to share with them today?
I like that you asked that. Could we take 2 minutes and do a short practice?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Would somebody say no to that, really?
Great. So, because I think that would be more impactful than any words I could just say. So,
okay.
All right. So if you are sitting, sit comfortably, whatever that looks like for you. If you're driving, just keep your eyes open.
Please.
Yes. Let your hands rest on your legs. You can drop your chin toward your chest. Either close your eyes or you can soften your gaze and breathe in and out of your nose. Just taking a few mindful breaths here, allowing your shoulders to melt down, tracing a few breaths in through the nose, the throat, into the lungs, tracing it back out. Doing that a few more times and just observing here, seeing if your breath stops at the lungs or if it reaches the belly. Oftentimes, we're solely breathing from the chest. And when we breathe from the chest, our body is telling our brain that there is stress or danger present, even if there's not. So the way we change this stress loop is just by taking a few breaths from our belly. So on your next inhale, placing one hand on your stomach, and we'll inhale, feeling the belly rise even just a little bit. Exhaling, doing that 2 more times. As we change this messaging happening in our body, telling the brain all is well, I am breathing, I am okay, I am healing. And now bringing your hands back to your legs and choosing your I am for today. Whatever you want to remind yourself of, knowing that when we use these 2 words, we work with neuroplasticity. This really cool ability we have to rewire our brain for healthier, more positive thoughts and beliefs. So choosing your I am, maybe I am capable, I am worthy, I am enough, I am resilient, I am right where I am supposed to be. And reminding yourself throughout the day, knowing that it is already a part of who you are. Sometimes we just need a little reminder. Inhaling and exhale out of the mouth. Again, shoulders dropping down. And just notice how you feel here in your body, in your mind. Noticing any difference from just a couple minutes ago. One more inhale. Exhale. Whenever you're ready, slowly lifting your gaze, blinking your eyes open, and coming back to the space.
I love you. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for allowing the space for that to happen. I have goosebumps,
Yeah.
which always means there's some real connection happening.
Yeah. It was beautiful. I can feel my shoulders and chest have opened up more. Yeah. I don't feel so frantic with my busy day. You know, I had things one after another. So it's just always nice to take that small 2 minutes, people. Don't tell us you don't have time. 2 minutes.
And you know, even less, 3 belly breaths. That is enough to start to shift the state of your nervous system. And our mind will follow suit, you know, listening to the body. So 3 belly breaths. Even just keep that in mind.
3 belly breaths.
That's power.
We all can do it. Yes. Thank you so much, Brenda. It's been a real joy having you here today. I hope you stay in touch with us. When you publish whatever it is, send me an email and I'll add it to the show notes because our episode will live forever. So people finding us in 20 years are going to want to know what you wrote.
Right? Okay. All right. For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.